Sometimes symptoms of mental illness appear at a very young age.
But they're oftentimes ignored or misunderstood, and if left untreated, can turn into bigger problems in adulthood. Well, tonight, the story of local star athlete who struggled for years and into some very dark places to conquer an adversary within. It is another Two on Your Side original.
Alex Newts.
On the field, he appeared unstoppable.
Newts, touchdown, Buffalo.
In 2011, Grand Island's Alex Newts was a star wide receiver at the University at Buffalo's Division I football program.
Just a quick hitch, and Newts turned it into.
But while this gifted scholar athlete was breaking school records and battling opponents on the field, he was also in a daily battle with another unrelenting opponent in his head.
It was just a constant shadow of doubt and darkness over everything. What if you don't do this right? Or what if you underperform? Or what if you're not as good as they think you are? How do I explain why I didn't do this right?
And then eventually there was another opponent in his medicine cabinet.
I felt like I was just completely dead to the world.
He played soccer. He was a great soccer player.
There's quite a collection of photos and newspaper clippings at the Newts' home, full of highlights showing Alex's lifelong love of sports. But hidden away were Alex's feelings of anxiety that started at the tender age of 6.
I felt scared, terrified. It was kind of like a nauseousness would come over my whole body. Some mental block that came over me that I didn't want to perform in front of others.
But Alex loved playing sports, and he was naturally athletic. But whenever he thought about those watching him play, the anxiety would start.
If I strike out, this kid's gonna laugh at me, or this kid's gonna think I'm terrible and I'm hurting the team.
Alex's natural talent continued to attract the attention of coaches. In high school, he was recruited to play varsity football as a sophomore and was getting noticed by local sports writers too.
I started to create this whole world of self-doubt, and what if you don't do this right, or what if you underperform, or what if you're not as good as they think you are? And it just kind of slowly started creeping into my mind.
He was breaking high school records left and right and should have been on the top of the world. But anxiety over his performance led to depression if he fell short of his own expectations. But Alex was determined to never let it show. And when he was recruited to play Division I football at UB, the stakes and the anxiety was that much higher.
He would call before the season started, and he would express anxiety. And all we did was tell him that we loved him, and just do the best that you can.
Alex fought the daily anxiety his first 3 years at UB and only shared the full depths of his emotions with one person, his longtime girlfriend. But a broken wrist his junior year that required surgery turned out to be a game changer.
And then that's when the painkillers were introduced after the surgery. And just taking those for the first couple of times, immediately not only took away the physical pain of my wrist, but it also took away the emotional and mental pain and struggle that I dealt with every single day of my life.
For Alex, the opiates seemed like a miracle drug. But after his prescription ran out, his anxiety and depression returned. And his desire to continue taking the hydrocodone, a powerful opiate painkiller, lingered long after his wrist healed, and getting more was not tough.
Well, it turns out that there's 30 kids a year having surgery on the football team, so it was not hard to, find a guy who could give you a couple here and a couple there. And that was really just the start, in the start.
His occasional use continued through his junior year until a traumatic emotional event, a breakup with his longtime girlfriend and confidant during training camp, took his anxiety and eventually his addiction to a whole new level.
I need to get help. I was like, I'm struggling. I just asked for 3 days off of camp. Nothing's crazy, nothing serious. I was like, I just need to go get my mind right. I need to go figure things out. And I was just kind of immediately guilted into you're just gonna leave your teammates and you're just gonna let these guys down. We have a goal to work towards.
And he called and he says, I can't do this anymore. I was very worried about him. He said, I need to get out. I need to talk to somebody. And they won't let me out.
That's when I was just like, I'm all in. We're erasing it. We're numbing everything. We're just going to numb it and get through it all.
Alex's solution was to start using opiates on a regular basis. And despite a 16-pound weight loss, he was able to hide his emotional state and his growing addiction from friends, his coaches, and the fans.
People will be surprised to hear that you still performed incredibly well on the field, even though you're technically addicted.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
So they didn't harm your performance?
No, if anything, they probably made me play better. Crazy.
Alex said he was relieved when his senior year ended, but to his surprise, there were offers to play in the NFL, and the ride continued.
You get so caught up in it all, and you stop thinking about what you need and what your goals were way back when, and you're just focused on, well, everybody else is excited, so why aren't you?
But the excitement of family and friends didn't carry Alex through this time when the injury bug bit. His tryout with the Cincinnati Bengals ended his NFL dream after a torn hamstring. It was time to quit football for good, but his anxiety and depression didn't quit him.
Am I letting people down, and what do I do next? And just the pills were always right there to be my best friend.
A lot of free time and a bank account filled with NFL money helped to fuel Alex's full-blown addiction, taking opiates nearly every day for close to 2 years. He looked in the mirror and hardly recognized himself. Alex decided to confess his addiction to a friend, who then told his parents.
I was shocked. Because I didn't see it. I truly didn't see it. I couldn't tell that he was on drugs.
Adrian called her family doctor and got advice about how to talk to Alex about getting help. And when she asked him if he wanted it, she had an extra incentive for him.
And then I said, I'm addicted to alcohol. I was addicted to alcohol. And so I decided that I had to help Alex by doing the program with him.
Even with dealing with all the emotion of your son's addicted to drugs, it could have been a reason to go off the wagon even harder and drink even more. But instead, she used that as motivation to, get us both going.
So I said, if you want to get clean, I will go through the program with you, and I will stop drinking.
So you did it together?
We did it together.
Adrian and Alex each now have close to 500 days of sobriety, a major milestone for both mother and son, plus the support of a strong recovery community who are there to provide lifelong support.
I'm honestly thankful and glad that I had to go through that experience, but I knew I wanted to get better. I always known that I've had a bigger purpose, and this has just kind of allowed me to see that again.
Well, Alex is anxious to share what he's learned and has started the Alex Newts Foundation to help young adults, athletes, and parents catch the signs of mental illness and addiction early. You can find his Twitter hashtag in this story on WGRZ.com.